Is there?
We'll call the July 9, 2019 meeting of the Greenwood Redevelopment Commission to order at 4:30 p.m. Roll call, please.
Mr. Campbell?
Here.
Mr. Harris?
Here.
Mr. Hoover?
Here.
Mr. Moan?
Here.
Non-voting advisor, Mr. Alexander?
Here.
And let the record show Mr. Hopper is absent, but we do have a quorum.
The minutes of the regular meeting of June 11, 2019 have been distributed to members of the commission. Any additions, corrections, or deletions anyone notes? None, I'll accept a motion for approval of those as prepared.
Second.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. New business. Move to resolution number 2019-08. Before us, a resolution approving an application for property tax deductions for certain real property located within the East Side Economic Development Area, Becknell Industrial Building 3. Mr. Sherman is here with us to discuss this.
Thank you so much. This is Becknell Industrial. As you might recall, our last meeting, they had building 4 and building 5 in the same location. This is building 3. The building 3 is a 64,000 square foot building, so it's pretty much the sweet spot for light manufacturing, things that we're really looking for a spectacle building. There are 6 dock doors, 9 knockouts. The timetables for the construction of this is April 1 of 2020 and then completed by March 31 of 2021. The only thing that I would ask there is, if you remember we had building 4 and building 5, if there's someone that comes in and we have those available and they might want to start building 4, and we may move those around, but in any case, we'll have this complete with 1 year to start. But our intention right now is that it would be April of 2020. The approximate cost is about $5,740,000. I think our assessed value should be somewhere around $6.4 million. We've got the number of employees there. It's a spec building, so we think at least have 15, and we have 750 is the wage rate for that.
Any questions for Mr. Sherman? Comments from members of the commission?
I do have a question concerning an apparent discrepancy, and I don't know if there's been an updated version that's been submitted, but the size of the building and the application itself is referenced as being 64,000 square feet, but in the SB1, it's referenced to being 151,000 square feet. Do you know which of those is
Yes, I'll take
correct one?
It's 64,000. Yeah. 64,000. Correct.
And the SB1 was corrected and submitted properly, and it's attached
It's in our
correctly.
resolution.
Okay.
Yes.
I was looking at the one from the prior meeting. And the start and completion dates, do we have firm commitments on those dates?
I just spoke to that, and we'll have a firm commitment of a year from when we started. We just had building 4, building 5. We have a tenant that wants to build 4 or 5 that would take the place of 3 because they're all staggered within a year. So they would replace that rate within a year of being started.
Okay. Thank you.
Further questions? Further action you wish to take with respect to resolution 2019-08?
I motion that we approve the resolution as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Mr. Campbell, may I put you on as counsel? Thank you.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you.
Old business. We don't have anything specifically on the old business, but we move down to capital project report. That brings us to Mr. Steinmetz.
Good afternoon. The first item is relatively straightforward. It's a change order reduction on the Old City Park project. Man, do you get the exact amount on that? I didn't have that.
Just quickly out there, but internet works for me. That is $35,165.
Yes, that'd be a reduction of 35,165 to sign off on, and then we'll get those copies back to the contractor. We were able to kind of rearrange some of the lighting patterns up on the hill close to the playground. Well, that will be, but we had some additional trenching to run new service that was overhead to the Baptist church. And by the time we did all that, we ended up with some savings in the aggregate electrical plan. So just asked to approve that decrease to the Old City Park construction contract, and
Is there such a motion from the commission?
So motion. Second.
Further discussion? Reductions are always good. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed.
the second item we have today under Old City Park is actually an increase, but it's an enhancement to the project. We worked with, since we were running new electrical all over the park, which before really didn't have it or was very improvised, we decided to take the opportunity to install Cat 6 cable, as well as put up some various security cameras and apparatuses. We've done this with every new project, particularly where you're going to have young people in events. Did this in Kid City and Freedom Springs and other places. And this just kind of shows you the ability, particularly to cover the trail and the parking lot, allow us to have additional security all throughout the area, from the library up through Main Street. That kind of runs through a variety of what there would be in this. Again, just work with our IT director, Rick Jones, to do this. And so the total increased project commitment for Old City Park, which we recommend from the central tip, would be $40,914.34. And I've been advised by council that the Johnson County Fiber should be approved conditionally to legal and the company agreeing upon suitable terms, as they don't have a PSA with them yet. They do on the tailored systems for the security. So if there's any questions on that,
So, Kevin, are you asking for approval of the full $40,000?
I am, but for the 3,302, that is conditional upon
PSA.
terms with the legal department.
Questions for Kevin? Pleasure of the commission.
I move that we approve the proposed RDC request as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion?
I'm sorry, what fund does this come out
The
of?
central tip, please.
Central tip, okay. I can make that part of my motion.
And it's clear that the 3302 portion is conditioned upon us having an appropriate PSA that's agreed with the city. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes.
So, the next one, we will pull up. So the map you're looking at up on the screen, I figured this was clearer than the beacon, shows, and we'll switch over to satellite here. The Val Vista Arms apartment complex on the bypass, or where Emerson Avenue changes to Smith Valley. That is one significant apartment complex, been in Greenwood for quite some time. And on the east or right side of the road, you see on the far right, Emerald Lakes, which is a significant apartment complex. You have Mission Hills Village. You have Bexley Village. You have a variety of dense residential on the east side, as well as some on the west. And if we zoom in here, let's see if it'll let me zoom in anymore. At Grassy Creek particularly, you can see that there is a crosswalk on the south side of that Grassy Creek Road that also goes all the way over and connects into Sheik Road, a pretty major arterial street for the city. And one thing that we are trying to do through this area, through the east side and the central part of town, is increase pedestrian connectivity. The Parks Department just invested a pretty substantial amount of money to overlay that entire trail, which is probably the most popular recreation and walking trail. A lot of people on bikes and walk dogs, but it doesn't have a good connection over to that significant population center to the east. So based on kind of some feedback that the deputy mayor and mayor's office got from the public and folks who live there, the idea was that it would substantially increase the safety as well as the quality of life if we could connect those apartment complexes over to the trail that goes over to Creighton Park and past the art trail. And so what you have presented in front of you is a contract with Midwest Electric. It does also back in, that was the area we're talking about there. Contract with Midwest Electric, who does a lot of our lighting and pedestrian crossing that is illuminated across the city, to install 2 of the pedestrian activated blinker signs. This will be similar to what you see at the Cornerstone Autism Center. There's also some on Fry Road in that redevelopment project that allow citizens that used to be at Euclid before we added the hawk signal there, which actually could turn on the red light, but allows pedestrians to activate that to warn cars coming that they're going to be jogging or walking across the trail. And then it will also put up 2 ornamental light pole assemblies similar to the ones we've been installing in Old Town to illuminate that better for when people are returning at dusk or beginning their, if they're doing morning or dawn situation, as well as if someone does happen to cross it once it's dark, to provide more light there. So between the ornamental features of it and the connectivity, constantly working on east-west connectivity in Greenwood, both for vehicles and pedestrians, we think this investment of not to exceed $48,521 helps further integrate the neighborhoods on the east side with one of our most popular quality of life amenities that just got a significant enhancement due to an investment of the Parks Department. So if there's any questions on this,
Kevin, so there's 2 poles, correct?
well, there's
Or there are
4.
4,
There's
okay.
4 structures. 2 of them are like the black light poles that you see on, say, Serena Way.
And the blinker lights are not connected to those.
Correct, and then 2 of them are the ornamental black smaller poles like you see at the Cornerstone Autism Center or on Serena Way or on Fry Road, where pedestrians can come, push them, activate it, and it blinks around the yellow diamond of the trail crossing. So basically are adding going from just a simple painted white crosswalk to an actual illuminated LED pedestrian activated crosswalk with a decorative lighting to further enhance and increase the safety and awareness at that intersection.
Other questions for Mr. Steinmetz?
Be payable from Central.
Not to exceed 48,000, what was it, 48,521?
$521 with Midwestern Electric.
Well, I'll move that we sign that contract under the terms as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. We'll go to Madison Avenue Streetscape.
Yeah.
Plans.
Okay, we'll just go a little bit different part of town here. If you recall, at your June meeting, we first introduced this plan because the investment would be over $100,000. The context for this first is that this was a key feature in the downtown development plan and corridor study authorized and paid for by the Redevelopment Commission of 2016 is when that was delivered. That study built upon 30 years and more of comprehensive plans and revitalization studies that had kind of had a variety of similar ideas but just need to be turned into projects and implemented. It then went through the Greenwood Common Council 2017 EDA amendment that also originated here with the Redevelopment Commission. And we did phase one. We jumped right into phase one after that EDA amendment happened. And that was complete in October of this year, substantially complete in October of this year. Here you see it at Euclid and Madison Avenue. And the particular orientation for the right-of-way that was available to the city at this juncture. One thing should be noted in the master plan for this, and as we get into the design and see the survey and we realize where the right-of-way is and the property lines, is that we are past the narrowest point of Madison Avenue, absent that small part that we've already authorized design on from Pearl to Main. And so as we head north towards the mall, towards Marion County, you'll see in these proposed sections that we move away from 2 lanes to 3 and then eventually even more. But we preserve on the west side multi-use trail, and on the east side, as folks who go to the farmers market know, we got a block farther north of the last phase from Logden to Noble, but we continue a traditional sidewalk on the east side connecting folks on the east side of Madison. So as we would head past said church, as you can see here, we continue that 6-foot sidewalk up the east side, we keep a buffer to keep it away from the road, we continue our bike and pedestrian path, and we have 3 lanes is proposed. As we head north towards Canby, which is that key connector, goes into the Oval neighborhood that we've been working on with Fairview and Horton. We move up to still having 3 lanes, but we have much more options with what we can do. We even can propose here a tree lawn, further separating folks from vehicles as we go past that apartment complex on the east side. And as we start heading up towards the Fry Road corridor, we're ever to retain that center turn lane. And as we get closer, we now see 4 lanes emerge at Fry Road. And that actual center median that was there is now gone. And you retain the sidewalk and the connectivity on the west side. The scope for the project, that includes survey, includes designing a variety of the crossings we just talked about, potentially another beacon like we saw at Madison and Euclid, as well as the ones we just talked about at not to exceed. GAI is primary engineer on this, and then Rundell Arnsberger, who did the master plan, will take care of landscape and kind of coordination as well as construction administration. This would be payable out of the Fry Road TIF and designed next year with the ability to, in 2020, start thinking about construction potentially. If not 2020, 2021. So if there's any questions, I can answer that now. With this stretch, the stretch we've completed, and then the small part in the streetscapes project, we will have made a significant dent in the master plan that included a connectivity corridor on Madison Avenue from the roundabout up to the Greenwood Park Mall in Marion County.
You say this would potentially start construction next year?
It could. Depends, again, one thing I found with Old Town is to always give yourself more time, that you're always going to find some stuff that you didn't think would be on the survey, and you won't find some stuff you thought you would, and then once you start doing more, it can snowball on you. So there's the potential for it, but it depends on what we discover. There is one potential change of scope that could happen in the future, and that is that the county has reached out to us upon hearing this. They have two old culverts, I believe from the 1950s, that go underneath Madison Avenue. If they decide to replace those, we would work with them in an interlocal agreement so that for residents of the county and the city and commuters and everything else, this work would be done the same as the time as the culvert work.
Any further questions for Kevin?
So Kevin, this includes all 4 sections, right?
Those 4 proposed sections, yes. What that's trying to show is that the right-of-way width at each of those sections is actually a little bit different, or at least the right-of-way width that we can identify without a survey. And so the proposed drawing is showing you that we're out of that narrower configuration that we had in the oldest part of town there, and have a lot more capabilities for both vehicles, stormwater detention, and pedestrian infrastructure, with the 2 key themes being extend the 6-foot sidewalk on the east side, carry forward the trail north on the west side. Try to get some sort of green separation, stormwater detention.
But these design services will take us all the way up to Fry Road, is that
This takes us all the way to Fry Road. We stop essentially at Fry Road with the idea that depending on what happens with that side of the mall, as well as our stormwater projects up there and the property this body acquired at 1265 North Madison, we have a variety of different options on how we want to do the northern leg of this.
This has nothing to do with this, but where are we on phase 2?
So phase 2, the streetscapes, we are about, well, depending on how you look at it, at least 60% of the way done with design. We are working on sewer work and trying potentially to hopefully do some sanitary sewer work later this year and get that done before we start the road closure. So we're very heavily involved in utility coordination and trying to get some of those conflicts and solutions identified before we actually get into construction, to try to make the construction period as short as we can on Madison between Pearl and Main, and then on Main between Main and Meridian. So we have a pretty good idea, at least we think, what's there now, and so trying to create solutions for that. So.
I'd be open for a motion to approve this PSA for this matter.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
I'll say.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, promise I'm almost done and get much more exciting people up here.
Okay, no pressure out there.
No pressure. So the final thing that I have for you today is, again, part of a long-term commitment that the Redevelopment Commission and the city has made. When we developed a new brand in 2015, 2016, we then engaged graphic and sign consultant RLR Associates, this body did, as well as the general fund and parks and some others chipped in to create kind of a signage dictionary that could be used for wayfinding and other sort of signs. You've seen these go in on projects like Serena Way, like Madison Avenue, the Serena Square through the Parks Department, the Police Department, the new multi-directional wayfinding sign up at Fire Station 91, city limits signs that was funded by the Street Department. And so on this one, this is part of the trail and Old Town and other redevelopment areas, going through and modernizing the park and trail signage for this. You'll see we've replaced the sign at Craig Park, which has been essential to our redevelopment areas. I had a really good Freedom Fest there. The rest of you were able to attend as well. Northwest Park, which would be payable from the Fry Road tip. I'll get to the breakdown here in a second. Northwest Park Annex, which would also be payable from the Fry Road tip. Freedom Park, which has been essential to the revitalization and expansion of parks that we see not only with Freedom Springs, which is probably very busy today, but the added acreage that was made possible part by this board. Hampton Hall, which is a building that the Parks Department has purchased and is redeveloping into a rental space at Northwest Park. Woodman Park, which sits in the middle kind of the central TIF and close to the high school. These signs here will be paid for by the Parks Department, but it's important to note that we've been pretty successful, and you should hear quite a bit more about this, at finding community stakeholders and partners to work with us and take up roles in maintaining some of the roundabouts and medians and features that this body has installed, as well as the Common Council. And so as those agreements are memorialized, the Parks Department is going to have a formal way of recognizing those folks. Freedom Springs, again, a significant investment from this board. And then you have kind of all the signs along depending on how you want to name it, the Art Trail, the Polk Hill Trail, which runs, that we just talked about with Grassy Creek. The signs are trace their genesis to the original install of that trail and have taken some abuse over the last 20 years, 15 years. These are the stop signs that we replaced some of the wooden ones. And finally get down to the aggregate investment, and I broke this down. We get synergies by buying this, even though this board would not be asked to buy the whole thing. But the aggregate investment from the Redevelopment Commission would be $23,595. That would exclude the Adopt a Spot signs, which I believe was B. Yeah, that's B. That would exclude B. And then, furthermore, within that $23,595 aggregate, we recommend that $6,861 be from the Fry Road tip. Those would be the three park signs that would mark that corridor. And then $16,734 from the central tip, which would be like your Craig Park sign down in the southern parking lot where folks park for the trail. The stop signs where the trail integrates the actual trail signage. So it would be for the, or what I'd be asking for would be a commitment of $23,595, $6,861 of which would be payable from the Fry Road tip, and $16,734 would be payable from the central tip, as we continue to roll out with projects our grander wayfinding system throughout the city.
But Kevin, the contract we've got in front of us is for the full 27,525.
Correct. And the park,
Parks will reimburse us.
it's up to legal. I think they have it at their meeting right now, don't they? Today. I think they do up here, but we could. I think this board should just appropriate the park assignable to it, and let the park board move forward with its separate items. So we would approve probably either a separate contract off this quote or our own deal with $23,595.
We'll amend the contract.
Okay.
We were not aware for, we'll make sure it's corrected.
You want to amend the contract, or, well, we could go ahead and sign the contract as is, as Mr. Watson suggested, with the understanding on the record that RDC share is going to be $23,595, and the Parks Department will be picking up the rest of that.
And I'll notate that in the meeting minutes.
Shauna, is that okay with you?
If we can work with the documented, yes.
Pleasure of the commission then.
So I'll make the motion as stipulated.
You don't want to repeat that?
To do whatever we just talked about.
For $23,595 as the RDC's portion, and with the record being noted that the remaining balance up to $27,595, whatever it is, will be coming from the Parks Department to reimburse. Those paid directly.
And
Out of various.
Yeah.
$16,734 from the central tip, $6,861 from the Fry Road tip.
second.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Dave.
Next, I'll move along to legal department. I understand Shauna is going to be addressing this.
I can't promise to be exciting, but I'll try to be expedient. Anyway, first item I have is a proposed engagement with Pro LLP and it's for financial advisory services. It's relating to the Indian Economic Development Subordinate TIF revenue bonds of 2019 Series A. I think it was sent to you for review. I do have a proposed addendum for that they're still reviewing, so I don't know if they will agree to all those terms, but it's to do those financial advisory services for the parity report, preparing a term sheet to close those bonds. So my request is to approve an engagement with Crow LLP for those advisory services in an amount not to exceed $33,000 with the final terms. Conditions should be determined by the legal department. Trying to finalize those.
Pleasure of the commission.
Just a question, the not to exceed amount was 33,000.
Correct.
There's an additional 3,000. Did I see that in there? For expenses. What was that, Sean? Am I making that up? I frequently do in my business.
Yeah, the engagement was for $33,000, but it included the $3,000 for the parity report.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead and put that in. We're still negotiating these. Correct. Yes, from the bond proceeds.
Other questions for Sean? Is there a motion to approve this addendum?
So motion.
Further discussion? this is a conditional, obviously, as we discussed. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Second item I have is Indiana American Water has requested the grant of utility easement along your property that's commonly known as 1265 North Madison. They're on the county line of Madison Avenue where the Speedway is up in that northwest corner. They would like to have the easement. It's going to be located just south of the, connected to south of the new right-of-way line. When the city of Indianapolis does that road improvement, 10-foot easement, approximately 496 feet, replacement of a double loop line. It would serve RDC's property there, as well as increase the safety there, because there have been issues with water pressure in that area for some time, and when there are firefighting issues, they frequently have to send several tanker trucks to take care of it. And so they would like us to, as they notice, to grant that easement to them. Corporation Council has reviewed the easement document and approved the form. The total is about 1.113 acres, so I said it's a very small area. So, motion to grant that.
Amanda, I don't see anything in my packet saying for distribution commission for signature of this. Is this something you're going to modify the signature block? Is there an issue with that one?
I'll have to reach out to the firm that prepared it for Indiana American Water, and we will
So we don't
request,
have anything, we'll just approve it.
we'll request it to be amended and changed, and then I'll reach out to you.
Okay. Any further questions for Shauna on this matter? If not, I'll move we approve this easement.
I'll second.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, sufficiently excited. Mr. Watson, from your office.
I do. This is a follow-up matter related to primarily the Verge project, also known as the Echelon project. That should be closing, but the financing on that bond should be closing later this week. And as part of the bond documentation review process, I realized that when that was approved at the May 16, 2019 meeting of the commission, that the amount of the project commitment and funds exceeded the $100,000 limit for the two-meeting rule, and we did not act to suspend the commission's two-meeting rule. And so consequently, I would recommend that the RDC today adopt a motion to retroactively suspend the commission's two-meeting rule back to the May 16, 2019 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Campbell, second. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. And actually relating to that, I think we were all I think that was an early morning meeting. And so I think we were all just still waking up and didn't have enough coffee. And that also included the Cummins project. And I would suggest that project, we suspend the two-meeting rule for that as well. I don't think that was done at that time. And then similarly, there was another project related to the purchase of playground equipment for Old City Park that similarly was in excess of $100,000. And I would recommend that there be a motion to retroactively suspend the commission's two-meeting rule for both of those projects back to May 16, 2019.
So motion.
Can I put it all in one motion if they can say that?
Second.
Yes.
Yes.
Got it.
Mr. Harris, Mr. Miller, second. Thanks, Steve. Anything
And
else?
we got the seconds. We need a vote.
Oh,
Do we
Oh, all in
vote on
favor,
that?
say aye. I'm sorry.
Aye.
Apologize. Thank you.
Thank you. We did have a vote on the first one, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, very good.
Yes.
That's all I have for today.
Thank you. Mr. Wright? He was here.
He's in the park board meeting.
Okay. We'll skip on to Mr. Johnston.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
A number of items, so we'll try to be efficient. The first is for Morseville Road, section 3. This is going to be the second meeting for this particular item. This is the commitment of the local funds last month. The letting is October. Typically, NDOT likes to have this type of commitment 90 to 120 days out in advance of the letting, so we are right at that threshold, but no issues with that. And then RDC is the fiscal body for that commitment. So the construction cost estimate range that we're at for this project is between 10 and 11 million. The construction inspection estimate is 1.26 million. And so our estimated local portion of costs is $3,185,050. That does include a 10% contingency for those. And so my request to you all is to approve the commitment of the local funds for this project for that amount, and that to also authorize the RDC officers to execute all documents and enter into all contracts with NDOT and or Federal Highway or any other party as necessary to implement this project. And that's my request for this. And there's a resolution.
Okay, would the resolution encompass all of those requests?
It does. The text is, sorry, I kind of paraphrased it here, but the text is at the bottom of the resolution.
Pleasure of the Commissioner with respect to Resolution 2019-10.
Make that motion to approve resolution 2019-10.
Second.
Move to second, further discussion. Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, thank you. The second item I have is also a second meeting item. This is for reimbursement for utilities that are eligible for reimbursement, also with Horseville Road Section 3. Just a quick little recap. There's two, Duke Energy and BP. Duke Energy, they have their main power poles along the north side of Horseville Road, but the only part that's eligible for reimbursement is along Hebron Road. These are the anticipated relocation costs. Those were provided by Duke, $190,299.57. And the kind of red cloud, if you can see it, it's a little small on the screen, but that identifies those poles that are affected, or that are reimbursable, I should say. Second is the BP gas easement here. On the image, on the graphic, I showed this last month. The yellow identifies the gas line easement, and the blue identifies the alignment, the pavement of the new roadway, and we are avoiding the easement, but there are going to be some impacts. And so these are the different options that they've provided. We are still coordinating with them for their desired relocation option. So my request today incorporates their most, is an up to of their most expensive option. So the action requested would be to approve the funding for reimbursement to Duke Energy of $190,299.57, and to BP, that is up to the $268,000 for the Horseville Road Section 3 project, and authorize city staff to continue coordinating with utility companies to review and approve utility relocation work plan documents.
Action by the Commission. Questions from anyone? The Duke is a fixed cost as opposed to the BP being an up to cost.
Correct, and I only say the up to because if they were to pick this partial removal option, the amount would only be $209. Yes. And the third option that we have recommended to them, we anticipate that to be even less cost because there will be less amounts of their pipeline that would be impacted.
Pleasure of the Commission.
Make this motion as presented.
I'll second that. Further discussion. Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. My next item, also associated with Horseville Road Section 3. This is for professional service agreement with CHA Consulting. This is for there's the amount of the agreement. Actually, that's a typo, I apologize. On SharePoint, there is the contract documents, the fee proposal. If I remember correctly, it's $1,268,000. And I apologize, I don't have that amount here. Lisa, Amanda, if you're
You say it's on your presentation on the SharePoint?
on SharePoint, yeah, the PDF.
Hold on.
Try like the last page.
Yeah, almost there. All right, faster. Keep talking, I'll get to it.
But also to add an additional contingency, that's the contingency amount, the total, once Amanda is able to confirm the actual number and stated in the contract. I apologize for the typo, but the total that I'm requesting, including contingency, would be $1,333,700. So that amount, the actual amount will be a little higher, so the contingency percentage would actually decrease a little bit.
Yes, it's $1,268,794.02. 2 cents is important. You need me to repeat that?
1,265,794.02.
268,794. Yes.
So a motion to approve that award in that amount.
No motion.
Second. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Was that you seconding, Mr.
Yeah, that sounded like a question, I know. Sorry.
Thank you. My last item for Worsville Road, Section 3, just another monthly update on our various relocation costs. Again, these are all the entitlements to a lot of the residents in the mobile home parks we're eligible for. So cumulatively, we are just over $401,000. This was an increase of approximately $76,000 since the June.
Are there any questions about the relocation cost issues? Okay, we'll move on to Collins Road traffic signal.
All right, so this one, we are working with the developer, Scannell Properties, and A&F Engineering for a new traffic signal here at Worsville Road and Collins Road. We are working with them at a previous RDC meeting. You all approved entering into a restricted donation agreement with Scannell to fund the design and construction of this intersection. We are still working through that agreement document with them. One of the components will be that the construction on it is to begin by September 1st. So we currently have it out for bids. It had its first job announcement yesterday, or posting yesterday, and so we'll have our bid opening on the 22nd for this project. So what I'm requesting, since we are working towards to commence construction prior to September 1st, to wait for an approval at the August RDC meeting would complicate issues to contract with the contractor, have them mobilize their forces to get on site to begin. So I am requesting that the RDC delegate the authority to the RDC president and secretary to award the contract to the winning bidder pending the July 22nd bid opening and review of bids and a recommendation by city staff for this project, the new traffic signal in Worsville and Collins Road.
Make that motion.
Second.
Mr. Moe seconds Mr. Campbell's motion. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
consideration of change orders. Again, this is dealing and completing the paperwork issues associated with some of the change orders that have gone through on the project. We received these documents after the June meeting, so I'm bringing them for your consideration today. A lot of these were items that needed kind of an on-the-spot decision to be incorporated into the project. For example, change order number 5 there, added portable changeable message signs. We did that. We added that to the project to help post. Actually, if you remember, when we actually opened up the roundabout to notify residents and drivers of the change in the traffic patterns, there was a sign by the post office alerting them to that. We had a couple other signs involved with that, just notifying the drivers of the change. So that was the driver or the need for that particular change order. The water main was actually, there was some water main utility work associated with the project. A portion of it was reimbursable by the city, a small portion, I should say. Large portion was not. So the purpose of this change order was just to resolve the various costs associated once all the work had been done. The overhead signs there at US 31, that was actually adding some additional square, no left turn, the symbol, no left turn signs up on the span wires of that traffic signal to I guess, reinforce to drivers that we don't want left turns there in the east-west directions. The Opticom equipment relocation, that was taking it from the old Smith Valley and Madison intersection and moving it to the Meridian and Smith Valley intersection. This tunnel visors, that was actually the shielding on the traffic signals there at the northwest corner of Smith Valley Road and US 31. The way it was angled, it was going to throw off drivers if they saw a green light that wasn't actually intended for their traffic movement, so we wanted to try to prevent that. Subgrade treatment. Typically, this is just sort of an aspect of the NDOT process. Contractors will typically bid a project with lime material for their subgrade treatment. When our contractor got on site, their testing confirmed that actually, due to the soil conditions, they needed to use cement slurry. So this is one of those situations where, even due to the higher cost for that particular change order, it was necessary. Similar, number 17, the flowable backfill at the signal pole, there were some poor soils there as they were trying to construct it. The trenches kept caving in, so it was beneficial to the contractor to use flowable backfill in that particular case. So my action requested is to ratify the approval of these change orders 5, 8, and 13 through 17, and authorize city staff to sign NDOT's documents to continue with the process.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. And then lastly, my last 4 items, they're all associated with Worstville Road, section 4A. This is the portion between US 31 and I-65. It's been open for a few years now, but we've actually had ongoing discussions with the contractor related to some of the work between US 31 and the railroad tracks specifically. We held a number of meetings with our representative that performed the construction inspection. We had those meetings in 2017 and 2018, and then it was really this spring that we reached a consensus on and resolution on what the final payments should be for these various components. So I'll kind of walk you through those. First is change order number 36. This is sort of an overall delay cost west of the railroad. This additional amount would be $193,962.06. This will bring the final contract contract amount of the project to $11,112,676.47. I've got another request down here that will further lock in that final contract amount. The second is approval of construction pay estimates. Again, this is just resolving all these the various discussions. So we have three pay estimates there. One, you can see the amounts. The number 35 is actually just sort of the payment for that amount identified as change order 36. And then the final pay estimate, number 36, is actually for the final retainage for the contractor, thus closing out the contract. Then on the construction inspection side, the approval of the final invoice to American Structure Point, who serve as our inspectors, and for that amount listed there. And then the last is really the key that I think that I wanted to walk you through. This would be to authorize the city legal department to prepare a final closeout letter between city and E&D Paving, stating that with the approval of and after the payment of the dollar amounts shown above, particularly that one, change order number 36 there, regarding the final contract amount. That with the approval of and after the payment of the dollar amounts shown above, there will be no more requests for payment by E&D Paving or any of the suppliers or subcontractors, and that the project will be officially closed out with a final contract amount of $11,112,676.47. So my request for you, or for action, is to approve the change order 36, those three construction pay estimates, final inspection invoice, and then also authorize city legal to prepare that final closeout letter that I described.
Can I understand that the closeout letter, does that preclude any requests for any problems that we might encounter down the road? Or are we past that inspection and acceptance period, or find something later down the road? Are we precluded by executing that contract document now?
That's a good question. I'd have to double check on that. Since the work has been substantially complete.
It's been a significantly enough long time, I would think, but.
Right. I can find out for you if that is a holdup or a factor into your final decision. I can check on that.
Why don't you flip to that page of your PowerPoint? Could include a condition on that authorization that it not preclude or waive the city's other rights that may exist.
I don't know what could be out there. I'm not technical enough to know that, but just.
Right. And this was a 100% local job, so it didn't follow any standard NDOT procedures per se. So yeah, I'd have to double check what the bonding. But typically, yes, a 3-year would be usual. 1 year would be standard.
And we pass that.
Yes.
So what else think? I mean, if we add something like Steve's talking about, that doesn't necessarily, they may not accept that. It's not.
What's the city's experience if something like that were to happen? Do we challenge it? How does this happen when it does?
Now, do you mean like a material failure?
Yeah, if there's, let's say it's in some other project, but we find out a year after we do the closing letter that something needs to be fixed or repaired or whatever, how does that work today, like with any other project?
Right, if it's within those time limit,
Right,
then we would definitely go back to the contractor.
but if it's beyond that time limit, what happens?
I guess be the city's responsibility.
I think the other way to address this particular issue is simply to say that, or to add a delegation of authority to the president to approve, give final approval to that letter. You could say, subject to RDC president approving the final letter. Something like that.
Do some further review by council, the city council, I suppose. And I wasn't trying to create a firestorm here, and I guess if the warranty period essentially is what is covered, I can't imagine there be anything beyond that warranty period. It's not like, the failures we had at the roundabout, Smith Valley, that was obviously encountered during a warranty period, it was covered, but this would be something that's I don't have a great
I hear your concern.
but I mean, I think it's probably.
Have we, has the city prepared and used similar letters in the past, or would this be a new type of letter?
Not in the brief time that I've been here. Not to say that it hasn't been done in the past.
No, this isn't a common experience. We haven't really had to do this before. And I agree with Mr. Watson. We would be very careful in any closeout letter to put language in it that would preserve and not waive any rights that we might have under the law to pursue any cause of action that the city would be entitled to try to cover those contingencies when we put it together and draft it.
That would make me comfortable.
Yeah.
Me too.
Okay, with that understanding, is there, what we would be authorizing the city legal department to do? Is there a motion to authorize the department to prepare a final closeout letter as requested?
Before we do that, do you want to, we've got 4 items there, and I think the fourth is kind of contingent upon the other 3. Do you want to handle those one by one, or as a group, or what's your pleasure?
He has this motion that encompasses them all, if that's appropriate.
I can add the conditional language of what was discussed.
I think that motion would authorize city law legal department to prepare final closeout letter. City legal is going to be putting the language in there that's going to preserve any rights that the city might have to exercise. So I'd be happy if one of the commission members would make that motion right there. I think that will cover all 3 as well as the final closeout letter. So is there a motion as now on the screen?
I will make that motion.
Mr. Moan moves.
I'll second.
Mr. Harris seconds. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan. Contract modification for this meeting next year. Mr. Stone's not here. We are being asked to consider the 2020 general fund budget preparation. Who's going to address that? Is there something, Mandy, you know what's going on there?
Maybe Greg does.
Greg does?
I say approve it.
So I think as Adam mentioned in his email that the actual final approval of this budget would rest with the city council and the mayor's office. What we would be looking for from this board is in your general fund budget, which basically pays the commission members as well as for office supplies and whatnot for secretary. It's not in the big budget, and in fact, we're recommending that it stay flat as compared to 2019's budget. We didn't have any changes based on your current spending. That's right on target. Unless somebody had something that they thought should be included, we were going to recommend that the board just recommend approval to the mayor's office for the general fund budget.
So moved.
Second.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Greg. Greg, you were out of the office, room when we asked for anything from your office specifically.
No, I don't have
That
anything
is
from my
covered.
office.
Okay, thank you.
He's probably glad he stepped out, if you would have heard what Daniel
I had to go to
was
the park
saying.
board.
You just hear what we talking about, okay. Mr. Mayor, anything from your office?
I have nothing.
Thank you. We have the claims docket in front of us, gentlemen, in the total amount of $3,757,235.69. Is there a motion to approve that docket?
I'll motion that.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Any other business come before the commission?
I think I may have something that's relating back to resolution 2019-10, which is the match, or the resolution approving the match of the local funds on the Worsville Road Section 3 project. I think we may have a prior version here, and the version that I reviewed and revised and provided Amanda, I don't know that it got circulated.
Well, they have a lot to sign, I'll get it corrected and printed correctly, and back down here.
And I was going to try to summarize revisions that I might have made, excuse me, so that you know what those were. Unless you're satisfied with just relying upon my revisions, the resolution approval being the version that I revised.
That's why we engage you.
Your pleasure. I mean, the substance is the same. I just made a few tweaks to address correction. Substantively, in the recitals, I clarified that this project is partially located in the East Side Economic Development area, and that it will directly serve the East Side allocation area and will directly benefit the economic development of both the economic development area and the East Side allocation area. Both of those are statutory issues. How do I move that?
It's gonna be me and you signing it, so let's do it.
And the other,
Impose upon you to do it.
in the body, I incorporated specifically the recitals and the factual findings that were contained in the recitals. And then I also, in the next paragraph, where the operative commitment of funds is located, included the specific estimated to be approximately $3,185,000 and no dollars. It's 50, and no dollars, as described in attached Exhibit A, appropriated area. Those are the.
And I'm hoping that's the one that's on SharePoint, but if it's not, I'll have it, if it's not, okay.
Could I have a motion that we approve resolution 2019-10, as we previously discussed, but subject to the recommendations of Mr. Watson as to revisions?
I'll motion that.
Steve will second that. Further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And then Mr. Harris and I will sign that whenever it's available.
It'll be printed momentarily.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
So any other business which come before the commission?
Did we?
Oh, bye. Coming up. Yes. We'll stand adjourned then at 5:42. Sorry about that. Thank you all.